When injustice becomes law, resistance becomes duty. And if you're not good with that, you're going to live under tyranny. Since we're already down the road with this discussion about the earlier video, I thought I would share a few of my favorite quotes and then in a couple of minutes show you a part of the Declaration of Independence I don't think most of you have read, based on your response to the earlier video. Now, those of you who understand the criminality of what's going on down at our border, bear with me. You guys know what's going on, but this is for the rest. You see, there is tyranny in this country, and there has been for a very long time. It's not a recent development. It's come to a new level recently, mind you. So don't make any mistake. This country has lived under tyranny for a long time. When there's a boot on your throat, it doesn't matter whether there's a left boot on your throat or a right boot on your throat. That is a boot on your throat. And that's what's happening right now in this country. I think it's just a little bit more apparent in the last 2 years than it has been before. I always thought this was a great sign of a leader, to understand that all men are subject to being influenced by unrighteous desire. This is the Emperor Trajan of Rome. Very, very different from Caesar. Sad will be the day when the American people forget their traditions and their history and no longer remember that the country they love, the institutions they cherish, and the freedom they hope to preserve were born from the throes of armed resistance to tyranny and nursed in the rugged arms of fearless men. Now, the 4th of July is Wednesday, and of course that's the anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, so that's why I thought we would go there. See, people like to read for, a paragraph or so, and they stop reading because it seems to be something that they don't want to indoctrinate in themselves. Because when they start reading things, they start hearing things that don't agree with Rush Limbaugh or the left. They hear things that they don't get out of their mainstream media directors. So while everyone knows the reason, the king, the taxes and all that, and the quartering of the houses, the quartering of the troops in civilian houses was one of the reasons that, amongst others, we decided to make this country separate from Great Britain. There's another reason down here too, right up near the top of the reasons. And as we read through here, I want you to think about how many things you could ascribe to our government that are here being ascribed to King George. It says here, he has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. Really? Does Washington not make laws, common sense, everyday laws that would make our life a lot better? He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend them. How many times have we seen our Congress just decide they don't want to do something for its own reason? This is the one that's going to send the supporters of the current administration off their rockers. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. Meaning here that these were laws designed to keep large groups of people under certain rules and certain dictates, so that there wasn't this free day recess. You see, this is what the government of Britain was trying to do. It was trying to turn the colonies, by refusing to allow them to pass laws, into this Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome place that would eventually implode of its own design. But here's where it gets even better. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of land. This was one of the reasons we separated ourselves from England. He drug his feet on making law that allowed people from all over the world to come here. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. What he was talking about here was King George not putting together laws or allowing laws to be passed that allowed for the normal and natural populating of the United States from all over the world, from all countries. This idea that these colonies, these states, were supposed to be just for white Europeans from France or Great Britain or Denmark or Germany is a bunch of hogwash. It's right here in the Constitution. This was one of the reasons we left England. And everybody's like, oh, well, they should follow the law and come here legally. Had this been the case at that time, no one ever would have been able to. And what do we see now in our government? Years and years they take to go through all of these machinations and stupid testing and all this other nonsense. See, even then they had laws for naturalization of foreigners, but they didn't have a group like ICE, for example, to go in and just rip kids away from parents. And that's down here too. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. Really? That's interesting. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws. Mock trials, cutting off trade with all parts of the world, imposing taxes without consent, transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretend offenses. Rendition, anyone? See, a lot of people don't read this far down into the Constitution. And when you read through here, this is a laundry list of Washington, D.C. Plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. BATF, sounds like it to me. Armies of foreign mercenaries. UN, anybody? Constrained our fellow citizens to taken captive on high seas to bear arms against their country. That's interesting as well. There's evidence of that in our military too. This is my favorite. He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us, and he has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. This is exactly what Washington, D.C. is going to do, and it has nothing to do with immigration from the border. Nothing to do at all. Because there really are savages in this world, but they're not living in Mexico. And they're not living in Guatemala, and they're not living in El Salvador. And I'll leave it there. I'll let you figure that one out for yourself. But go ahead and, since it's the 4th of July, why don't you read through the Constitution past the popular parts? And see down here that the King of England, like King Don, decided that if he could refuse entry to people that might not be so willing to bow the knee to Washington, D.C., he could maintain his tyranny. Or in that case, bow the knee to England. It's the same thing. So just remember, this has all happened before. And it's happening again. That's why I said in my last video in the description, it's time to choose a side. You're either going to side with the empire or not. Where are you going to fall? Like, share, subscribe.